that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, I'm back. I am back with another Shakespearean tragedy, Othello, which all I have left is King Lear, and I guess Romeo and Juliet will eventually be reread. That's the one I'm most well aware of in terms of memory and the plot and everything in it, because of course almost every middle school or high school makes you read that. So King Lear, don't know when that's coming, but King Lear eventually. Romeo and Juliet, and then of course got to do all the comedies and romances. So those will come around eventually. But I was trying to get the core tragedies out of the way. So we have Othello. If we're doing rankings here, definitely above The Merchant of Venice. Significantly better than that. Still below Macbeth. And Hamlet, of course, which is the A1, day one, number one, best thing. If you read nothing else in Shakespeare, you read Hamlet. Personally, I say so. And I think most people would say so, if we're being honest with ourselves, because Hamlet transcends all, just like the Bible itself. It's right next to it. It is the secular Bible in terms of being that prolific in society and culture, even if you don't realize that it is. But Othello, we got Iago, who's probably one of the greatest villains in fiction, despite being very bare bones in terms of actual character depth, but that's not really what matters here. It's just more in terms of what he accomplishes by simply being a huge major liar and gaslighter. But, again, like when I had my revelation with Macbeth, when I learned that the end-all, be-all comes from that play. Same thing with wearing your heart on your sleeve, which we still say to this day, but is usually nowadays inferring that, we are completely honest and we wear a heart on our sleeve, we pour ourselves out there, we expose ourselves. But in the play, Iago says that, but then after follows it with, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't remember explicitly, but it goes, I am not what I say I am. So it was more a line of deception. But essentially, Othello is surprisingly, and I haven't done the history for this to really understand this, if this is actually like a historical thing or just something Shakespeare decided to do, but we have a black man in, like the 1500s, that's doing pretty well for himself. He's pretty high up there in the Venetian army. He's got a really hot wife. He's doing great. He's doing grand. Like he's not like the most powerful man in the world, but he's pretty well off, all things considering, for the 1500s. They call him a Moor because he's of a darker complexion, and he's doing great. He's got a lot of friends. Everybody seems to like him. He's just a good guy. But Iago hates him, and so he's going to destroy him. And so he basically lies to everyone. We ultimately get this huge orchestration of a plot where he goes to convince Othello that his wife has been cheating on him with a man named Cassio. And so all this goes around, gaslighting and lying to the extreme, planting evidence. Now the thing about Othello is if he would just actually talk to his wife, maybe he would learn the truth, but he decidedly does not allow her to speak. The biggest problem I have with the story is how Othello does some oos on his wife, and she just goes like, what's wrong? And simply like, why are you freaking hitting me? I understand it's the 1500s, but that was a little annoying. And despite all that, despite the domestic abuse and everything, she still talks sweetly to him as he goes and strangles her to death for something she never did. That's the end of the story, by the way. Quite frustrating. Sorry if it's a spoiler. This is like a 400-year-old tale. Experiencing it. Shakespeare, it's not really about knowing the events of the story. Like, everyone knows Romeo and Juliet die at the end of their tale. Like pretty much everyone knows that. Like that's not why you read Shakespeare. It's for the experience, for the journey to that conclusion, for the lyricalness of the speech as you utter it into existence, as you say it out loud. There's a sort of power behind that. It's the same thing with this play. But yeah, so he does that, and Iago, for all the terrible stuff he does in this, he does get his comeuppance. He goes to prison seemingly for life, but he keeps his life. And Othello, the one who allowed himself to be gaslit and lied to by Iago after realizing what he's done to a woman who was only ever faithful to him and loving, kills himself. So actually sort of similar end to Romeo and Juliet, except a lot darker, because at least in the other one, it's misunderstandings and all these tribulations that end with two young people dying. It's very sad. This is a man who allows his rage to consume him over a false premise and kills an innocent woman, and then proceeds to kill himself with guilt and remorse. So, very much a tragedy. And it works. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It just is not as powerful as like Macbeth or King Lear, which I've yet to read, or Hamlet, you know. I think it's also because we're in Iago. Iago's sort of our center, like in his mind as he manipulates behind the scenes, but we don't like him. Hamlet has his problems. We're enthralled whenever we get a certain section where he's just soliloquying and talking. We love that. And Macbeth a little less so, but we still have that sort of, he has that famous tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. You know, we have that famous speech. We have that descent into villainy, into losing his mind as he commits these murders and atrocities that he was a bit reluctant to do at first. You know, and then also the whole question of fate. And, you know, if you want to spread those across all the different plays, maybe this was ordained, maybe this was fated to happen, you don't know. I'm not saying that was like a point in this story. I'm just saying if you wanted to make like a thing about all of the stories, was this also. But it was good. It was solid. It's not the best thing that we have here, but I rather enjoyed it. I don't really have too many spoilers for the story besides literally telling you the end of the story. I do like that Iago's really good at, like, you know, he goes to Cassio. Cassio's like, yeah, I don't really drink because I can have a problem with drinking. Like, I can't drink with you. You go ahead and drink. I'll chill, but I can't drink. And he's like, just have one. Please. He's like, I'll have one. I can handle one. No more than that. Gets him super drunk. And so he starts getting into a bar fight. And he goes, look, that guy's a drunkard. Oh my gosh. Like, you can't trust that guy. You know, and then he does a lot of little sly things. And we see a lot of Iagos throughout storytelling history that follow through like this, that are, you know, this sort of like conniving trickster sort of. Loki, for instance, I mean, would have been before this, but you have these sort of, you know, archetypes that get more fleshed out after Iago, and get, you know, so I think that's really fun and cool. I'm trying to think of like a modern day one off the top of my head. Palpatine from Star Wars. That's a perfect example. But yeah, Iago also goes to kill Cassio. He does not kill Cassio, which is big oversight on his part. He like stabs him in the leg really hard. That's about it. But yeah, real big tragedy. I thought this was going to be longer, and I have some stuff that I wrote down, but honestly, I said everything that I think matters for this story without just personally experiencing it yourself. And it's fun. It's a good read. It's one of the better Shakespeare plays. A little underrated, I think. But it's just also like a lot of thematic points have been done better elsewhere. Like the whole tragedy of like killing yourself. It's a different context here. I just think that at least from memory, hits emotionally harder in Romeo and Juliet. And then also a lot of the other stuff is like, I guess I prefer watching Hamlet, you know, orchestrate his plans because we're so involved in his mind. It was with Iago, or not as much so, and he's less sympathetic. And then also people have also made interesting comparisons where Othello's really quick to act with his anger and fury, whereas Hamlet overthinks and overthinks and overthinks and overthinks. So I've seen interesting discussions online since reading his play and looking up stuff about it, about people talking about if you have switched the protagonists, both protagonists would have been perfect for their other stories. So like Hamlet, because of how much he over intellectualizes, overthinks everything, he would have found out Iago was trying to trick him eventually, and the entire tragedy of the story would never have happened. And where like in Hamlet's big problem is he spent so much time trying to determine, if his stepfather did in fact kill his father to usurp the throne and all that stuff. And there's so much of that, the confliction and morality and stuff that's going on for Hamlet in there. Whereas Othello would have just got really pissed off and killed the stepfather, and story over and done real quick. Real quick. So kind of like the perfect protagonist for each other's story, but the worst protagonist for their own. And I think that's really interesting in terms of that. But by and large, I don't really have too much else to say. One of my short reviews. It's like a solid B. I don't know, I haven't really done rankings, but Hamlet, Macbeth, those are like S's. Merchant of Venice is like a C, teetering on D. It's okay. This is like a solid B. It's a good time. If you're going through your Shakespeare plays like I am, you'll have a good time. And Iago's super fun to read his lines out loud. I had a lot of fun being this. Scar from Lion King. They're like the same. Honestly, it's like a human scar. Actually, that might actually be right on the money, because then you think about the freaking parrot or whatever the fudge the thing is in the movie called Iago. That might actually be a thing. I might be cooking here. Anyway, guys, that's everything I have for today. I have a self-pub book for next time by a fellow YouTuber. And then it's a toss-up between another YouTuber or the Divine Comedy. So I guess we'll find out. Until then, guys.